Hello and welcome to Happy Cells and Souls. My name is Julie Powers and I am a licensed Zumba instructor and a business partner with the Juice Plus company. And my missions in life are to help people understand that life is better when they're dancing through it and to inspire healthy living around the world. But my expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level, because we only get one body while we're here and we better take care of it and we better have a good time and just spread some light and love and happiness in the world. And that brings us to these videos. And what I love about these videos is I get to have conversations with people and just get to know them a little bit better and share their stories with you, whoever you are who happen to be watching. And today's story is brought to you by Olga Shaw. And I met Olga a few years ago when she first moved to our little town in Missouri. And I was so excited to meet you because you were a real tennis professional. And I'm a big fan of tennis. I play tennis. I play sort of. I'm kind of a robot tennis player. And I'm not very good, but I have fun. And that's what I think we're all supposed to do, is just have fun doing what we enjoy. But you actually do teach people how to play properly. So I'd like to just rewind a little bit and tell people how you got here and your story, because I think it's fascinating. And so Olga, if you would like to kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your family, your husband, Tony, your daughter, Amelia, your son, Milan, and where you grew up.
All right, Julie. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm sure we'll have a blast talking about all of this, but let me get right to it. So I grew up in the Czech Republic. I stayed there my whole life until I got done with high school, and then all of a sudden I decided I wanted to move. I'm sure we'll talk about the move a little bit too, but it's just a little tiny country in middle of Europe, and it provided me with a lot of opportunities to play tennis. Czech Republic is one of the best countries you can really learn how to play tennis because it's such a popular sport there.
Right.
Fast forward a little bit, and after college, I met my husband. My
Now
husband.
wait a minute. You just fast forwarded a little bit too much, because
Eh.
you said after high school you wanted to move. So you
Oh,
just like threw a dart at a map
hey,
of the United States and said, how about I go to the United States? And you ended up in where?
you, you know what? I kind of did. Um, when I was about 15 years old, I realized I wanted to play tennis, but I also realized that, I couldn't be professional tennis player. I wasn't good enough to play professional tennis. I had the privilege to practice with a couple of the players who made it in the pros, and that was really good for me because I knew I just don't have it, right?
Right.
And my oldest sister studied in DC and she played volleyball in Division 1. So I told myself, well, you know what? You're 15 years old, you have a few more years of high school. Let's give it your best shot and see if you can make it in college. Well, and I was pretty good and I got recruited to play at Kansas State University.
Yeah,
And
I mean, since I graduated from the University of Missouri, we have this thing about any schools in Kansas,
yeah,
but we forgive people for doing that.
well, we have as K-State and Mizzou fans, we have one thing in common that everybody knows. But I got recruited to go to K-State, and when I met the head coach, uh, and he talked about K-State and Manhattan, Kansas, I said, you know what? I think that's the right place for me. It's a small town. I always liked small towns, even though I grew up in a bigger town or
Right.
bigger city. And so all of a sudden I said, let's move from a city that has about 250,000 people to a little college town with 50,000 people. But I never regretted it. It was such a great change of pace for me. I got a little tired of playing tennis in high school, and moving energized me. Um, so never would go back on my decision. I had a couple other offers from different colleges, but that I think the small town and the family atmosphere and Manhattan, Kansas just sold it for me.
Well, and two, I mean, you got a completely different picture of what people would normally get from like just touring in the United States and going on a vacation. They would go to larger cities and some of the, places that have more popular things to do, but you
So,
actually ended up in a place that you could see what kind of small town American life is like.
absolutely. I mean, it's Manhattan, Kansas. I just love that place. I love to go back and visit. I love to go watch the other sports. Although now having kids, we haven't had that many opportunities to go back. But
Right.
I will make it back again, hopefully this summer. So I still have lots of friends there and people that I consider my family. So I definitely want to go back there.
So you played tennis, excuse me, you played tennis all through college.
I did. I played for all 4 years. I got injured. I got injured my freshman year. I tore my ACL, and again, looking at it when it happened, I was not happy about that. But few months after it happened, I realized I want to be a tennis coach one day because I
Mm,
was allowed to be a student coach. I would still travel with the team, and I was able to sit on the benches, although I wasn't giving any advices to my teammates. I was more of a moral support.
right.
But I loved it, and that was kind of the turning point for me when I realized uh, I let me go back a little bit. I wanted to study psychology, and I did, but I realized that I wanted to coach probably, yeah, halfway through the freshman year. So
No, that's a perfect major for a coach is to have
well,
that psychology background too.
it kind of is if you continued with sports psychology afterwards.
Mm,
But then I was thinking, K-State did not have sports psychology. And after 4 years of playing, I the only way I could have stayed at K-State, because I was an international student, I had to become a graduate assistant
mm,
to get my work permits. So I did that, and coaching allowed me to pay for it. Well, couple of years, or well, a year later, I think they turned that position into a full-time position, assistant coach position, and I was able to actually finish my master's degree, but coach as a full-time assistant coach. And again, it some things happen for a reason. I really believe that,
mm.
and tearing my ACL was kind of on that path. That helped me develop into a coach I am right now, and I'm still developing.
Right. Well, and sometimes I think that's a really good thing to always remember is that sometimes the things that feel like they're terrible, they're like the worst thing that could happen to us right now at this moment. It's just a tiny little blip that gets you to the next step and it helps point you in different directions. Like you said, it really kind of opened up a whole different perspective for you.
It really did. I mean, I'm kind of grateful it happened. I lost few months of not being able to play, but I got back, and I ended up playing in the top six of singles most of the time, between 4 and 6, and then usually number one or number two doubles team. I was always a better doubles player. I always enjoy doubles. Even now, if somebody asks me to go play singles, I usually don't want to, but if you ask me to go play doubles, if I have the chance, I will jump on it and go play.
Well, I'll tell you what, I used to prefer singles just because I like to be the one that if I messed up, it was my fault and I wasn't letting down a partner. But I was much faster then too. And the older I get, the more I appreciate doubles.
I, I know it's a big difference, but
Yes, it is.
in doubles you need little different skills, and I always had them ever since I was little. I started playing tennis at 7 years old, and everybody knew, even at that age, that I was a lot better doubles player than
Oh,
I was
that's
singles player.
interesting. Yeah. Well, that's
So
that's a really great skill to have because you're right. It's a completely different game. And like I said, I don't really play well and I don't do strategy well and I don't know what I'm doing half the time. But I've seen you play and I've seen you coach and you do know what you're doing, which is great. So you met your husband Tony after college.
I did meet him during during my master's degree when I was, I don't know, probably second year, maybe 2011. Well, I met him in 2011. I do remember that when I met him. He was a army pilot, and he just got back from deployment and from Iraq, and we met right after. And I was able to stay at K-State for a couple more years, but then he was deploying again to Afghanistan in 2013, and I haven't been able to spend a lot of time back home in Czech Republic, and so we took that year. Well, actually, he was gone only for 9 months, but we took that opportunity for me to go back to Czech Republic. So again, I packed up everything from K-State. I moved back to Czech Republic for a few months while my husband was deployed, and then when he came back, we had to move to a different state because of the army. And that's when I kind of started the private coaching, because I didn't want to get away from tennis, but
Sure.
I couldn't coach in college anymore because I knew we would move every couple of years. And so it's kind of a joke in our family now. We moved every couple of years, so every couple of years I had to find a different clientele, different people to play tennis with, in different states.
But you always did. You always
I,
did.
I always did. Alaska made it a little bit trickier because there are no indoor courts in Fairbanks, Alaska.
Right.
So I
That's easy.
didn't play there, but then we moved to Anchorage, Alaska, and I was able to restart the business again. But then COVID hit, and that's kind of how we end up here. The COVID hit. My husband just retired from the military and found a job here in Farmington. So we moved, we picked up everything, moved across the state. At that point, we had 2 kids already. We took a nice long road trip from Alaska all the way down to here in our RV. And I settled in for a couple of months and I started getting bored. So I said, you know what? Let's talk to a couple of the high school coaches and see if I can start teaching lessons here.
Right. And I remember when you came on board and I was like, hey, we have a real professional here that knows what she's doing. And I think she's staying. So, this is really great. And so tennis it's a very interesting group of people that play tennis. It's across the board, from all walks of life. But, they all have that same drive, that it's a competitive nature, but they just want to get better. And so I'm wondering, like in the last 5 minutes of our conversation, because it's already gone by so quickly,
Wow.
what would you say, the difference between your private coaching versus coaching at the college level? What do you find to be so different? And is there anything you like better about the private coaching with teaching little kids and older adults versus college students?
So the college coaching, it's high level. K-State is in the Big 12 conference, so there is a lot of pressure to perform, although it's not as much pressure as football or basketball coaches get, but you still need to recruit the best players. So you travel a lot. You travel internationally to recruit, and then when you coach, you really need to push your players to develop. But I always wanted to build relationships with the players. I don't think I was as good at it as I am right now. And I really think that private coaching actually helped me, because in private coaching, you have all these young kids that I have and little kids, you need to have fun with them, and you need their parents to trust you. So you constantly have to build relationship with the kids, with the parents, and you usually start, or what I've seen here, you start from the very beginning. So you need to develop the skills. Whereas in college, the players already come to you with, they're high level players. Yes, you tweak things, but you don't completely change their game. You get better, you have helped them to get more physical. But in private lessons, you do need to develop the players a little better.
Right. I know that, coming from, so my husband's family was in the tennis business. They had a tennis club in Kansas City, Missouri. And so all of that side of the family was very well versed in tennis. And I was just the outsider when I came in. But I got to watch that same thing, how they work directly with the kids. And my husband used to coach privately as well, hasn't for a while. But that relationship is so important, and finding what is going to bring the spark into that kid's eyes, right? And you get to create the right form. You don't have to correct a bunch of stuff that's messed up. You get to help them create the right form at the beginning, which has to be very rewarding.
Yeah, it really is. And what's more rewarding to me really, it's when I get the messages from the, actually, especially the high school kid parents. They send me messages saying, hey, thank you for helping our daughter, or thank you for helping our son. They had a great high school season, or they really got better. My main kind of a thing is, I want the players that I coach right now, or I teach, I want to see real progress. Everybody gets better on the tennis court if they go play on their own. So I'm trying to, the players I have, I'm trying to make sure that I help them to get better a little bit quicker.
Right. No, that's great. I love that. And we only have one more minute, Olga. This is just going way too quickly. I could talk about this for a very long time because I'm so interested in it. But I'm wondering, like, what do you think is the best age for someone to start if they have an opportunity to start young? What's the best age?
Now my daughter is 5 years old. I'm getting her started now, but she wants to play more than I'm letting her. I think when you're 7 years old and you pick up a tennis racket, unless you want to be a professional player, it's plenty. And one piece of advice I would like to give everyone is, if they are interested in tennis, yes, have them practice tennis, but also let them play other sports. Do not just focus on tennis. I will not do that with my kids. My kids will play all sports possible until they are older. And if they pick tennis later, yes, I will support them. But I want them to explore and play all sports. It complements tennis.
Yeah, I think that's really important because especially in today's world, a lot of kids play one sport year round, and they really mess up their bodies, because they overuse certain muscles and joints, and we weren't meant to do that. And so I think it's a great plan to really seek out all the different sports when you're a kid, and to do those seasonal things. I mean, yeah, it's great to have indoor tennis courts that you can play year round, but it's okay not to as well. So you can take a break. And I think that's great. So what I'm going to do is I will put some contact information in the text for this video if somebody's interested in getting in touch with you, or should they just reach out to you through Facebook, or what's the best way if somebody wants to talk to you personally about, whether they live close enough that they want to take some lessons, or they just would like to pick your brain about, choosing a tennis coach if they live outside the area. What is the best way for them to reach out?
They can reach out to me either, through Facebook, email, or phone. Text message probably works the best. And then if it takes a phone conversation, we can talk about it. But if I get a text message, I respond to them quickly, and then when I get a phone call, because of my kids, it usually takes longer to get to a phone call because I stay busy with their sports now too. So
I understand. Thank you so much for sharing just a little bit of your story. And I think this could have been several hours long, because I'd love to learn more about all the background and playing tennis in the Czech Republic, and some of the players that you got to play up against, because it's always better to play people that are better than you so that you get better. But thank you so much. Do you have any last words you'd like to share?
No, I am good, but thank you so much for having me. This really went by quickly. I didn't think it would, but goodbye.
Thank you so much, Olga.
Thank you, Julie.